Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on the Dallas Cowboys. This one's in Jerry World. Bucs coming off of a massive victory against the Los Angeles Chargers, and man, they blew the doors off them. I didn't see that one coming. But to Dallas's credit too, like they're coming off of a big win against Carolina, where I thought that game was going to be a lot closer than it was. They end up winning that game 30-14. Two teams that are coming off some big wins. What do we think about this one matchup that matters here, Carmen?
I'm going to keep doing it until Mike Evans hits 1,000 yards. It's whoever's on Mike Evans against Mike Evans.
That's my plus factor. So I'm with you.
I thought about putting him as my plus factor, but I wanted to go a different place with my plus factor. So yeah. Have some fun little stats for you.
Let's hear it.
Since the bye, so since Mike Evans came back, week 11 bye, week 12, he has generated 113 receiving yards over expectation since then. He's also been targeted on 32.4% of his routes since week 12. And prior to week 12, that number was at 25% of his routes. He was targeted on 25% of his routes. So huge jump, because you know that Baker Mayfield wants to get Mike Evans to his 11th straight 1,000-yard season. He would tie, I believe, Jerry Rice for the most consecutive 1,000-yard seasons.
Yep.
And it's something that is on Mike's mind. It's on Baker's mind. And it happened earlier in the game against the Chargers. I'm watching it. And sure enough, that's where Tarheeb still ended up getting his interception. He was in coverage on Mike Evans, and the ball was actually thrown a little bit behind Mike, which is I think what ended up happening. And outside of that, I mean, Tarheeb still was on Mike Evans for quite a bit of that game, or like the Chargers had chosen to shadow Mike Evans quite a bit. Mike Evans is 6'5". He's a massive dude, and he has all the motivation in the world right now. So I do think that Baker is going to still keep trying to force the ball to Mike Evans. He's got 251 more yards left. He's got 3 games to do it. You have to think that that's absolutely attainable, but just to be safe, get as many yards as you possibly can in these games. How is that going to translate against the Cowboys? Are you going to be able to take advantage of it? Are you able to jump routes? Like, if I'm a team trying to guard Mike Evans at this point, not only am I going to have a shadow, I'm going to try double coverage. I'm going to have a free safety over the top that's going to try to jump the route on top of having a guy that's going to contest Mike for those catches. I think that is, and again, like, are you going to get burned by guys like Jalen McMillan? Probably. This Bucs rushing attack, though, too, over 223 yards. I talked to Tristan Wirfs after the game about it, because I was just like, what happened? Like, this is the best rushing attack I've ever seen. And I was with the team for 6 years. Like, this is by far and away the most fun that these guys are having. And he's like, Harm, I really wish that I even had an answer for you. He's like, I get asked this all the time. I don't have an answer for you. It's just working. I mean, there was an expletive in there. There was an expletive in there that I won't repeat, but he was like the very first thing, it was like this run game. And he's like, how about that 200? And they're having so much fun also, which is just a direct contrast to what the Cowboys are going through right now. They are out of the NFC East race. And I think out of playoff contention. I don't know if they're officially out. The Cowboys.
Oh yeah, they got to be out. They got to be out.
Mathematically, you know how there's mathematically.
Actually, I don't know. Maybe if they're mathematically.
Right. So like two different kind of vibes.
6 and 8, yeah, probably not. I guess.
Yeah. I don't think they're mathematically out of it, although they're largely out of it. Yeah, okay. That's the thing, though. The Bucs, since Atlanta owns the tiebreaker over them, the Bucs actually don't have this large margin for error. As bad as Atlanta has been playing, they did win. So now they're only a game back from the Bucs, and so the Bucs really need to. They've got an easier stretch down the way, and they should be able to pull it off and get the division title yet again. But I really do think that the matchup that matters here is just you have to try and limit Mike Evans, because not only is Baker trying to get him to the 1,000 yards, but I mean, Mike Evans was in the end zone, and Mike Evans was like, he's gonna get him production either way, and Mike Evans is going to end up getting the offense production either way, and that's how you end up scoring 40 on one of the league's best defenses.
Yeah, I mean, Mike is also my plus factor here because he's a big deal in how explosive this offense is. But I'll flip to the other side just for a little bonus plus factor before I get to my matchup that matters. And Tyke Smith playing in the slot, how he
Yeah.
plays against CeeDee Lamb. I'm really looking forward to this one. I think that he is absolutely going to be up to the challenge for it. He had some games earlier this season where he was locked down. He's been a little bit hot and cold sort of since coming back, but I think that he is incredibly talented. He is one of the best young slot corners that we have in this league that we have seen this year, and he's going up against a really good one in CeeDee Lamb. And so, just like Mike is the focal point for the Buccaneers offense, CeeDee Lamb certainly remains the focal point, no matter who's quarterback or what their goals are. So, Mike just 84 receiving yards per game away from getting those 1,000 yards, and no Trayvon Diggs anymore, season-ending knee surgery, so he will not be out there to guard him. So I agree, that's an interesting point to make of like, hey, who's going to be guarding him? Is probably going to be a couple of sets of eyes that's out there. So that's my extra plus factor with Tyke Smith. My matchup that matters, though, you talked about the run game for the Buccaneers. It is the Cowboys' run defense versus the Bucs rushing, because the Cowboys' run defense, and I mainly wanted to highlight it for this reason, it's not quite the horrendous unit that it was in the early parts of the season. Weeks 1 through 8, they had a 40.7 run defense grade. That was worst in the NFL. Since then, or actually, I should say, over the last month, that's a better sample size for this team. 67.7 run defense grade. That's 15th in the NFL. So it's a hell of a lot better than dead last. So this is definitely getting a lot better. Not that it's the total strength of this team, but a lot better. And you mentioned they're going up against a Bucs rushing attack that, whether you want to look at the parameters for every game this season, since week 8, last month, they have been a top 10 rushing offense in the NFL.
Look at God, Trev.
Look, Jason Light knows how to build the damn trenches, man. I give him so much credit for that because, I talked about some of the struggles that the Bucs had along their offensive line really 2 years ago. I think it was, I was having a lot of these conversations, and I was trying to give people context about it and saying, like, look, you got to understand, Ryan Jensen suffers the injury and it ends his career before he was ready.
Yes. Ali
Marpet pretty much surprisingly retired earlier than they thought he was going to. And Alex Kappa leaves in free agency. So like even just those changes to the interior offensive line, you got Tristan Wirfs, but you still got to figure it out basically everywhere else. Now you draft Luke Gedeke. He goes from struggling on the interior to, okay, he's a right tackle, but I think they always drafted him to play tackle. They just had to put him on the interior the one year that he really struggled. So now that he's at the home of where they drafted him to play, he's playing well. You have Cody Mock, who you drafted to develop, and he's having a really great second half of the season. He has been awesome to watch in the second half of the season. You draft Graham Barton, who's playing really well as a rookie center there. First time being a center since his freshman season when he was at Duke. And you got Ben Bredesen, who's been all right for them and at least had a decent floor for them, but perhaps they can upgrade that even more. So when you look at the timeline of how long it's taken them to build the trenches, it is right in line with Jason Light and this team controlling whatever they could control to make the offensive line good enough to win a Super Bowl when Tom Brady came. And then when they had some unlucky, all right, Ali Marpet retires, Ryan Jensen gets hurt, now Alex Kappa, we don't want to really overpay for him just because we have to. We want to keep our process right. Boom, here we are. What, 3 years later? Recouped this exactly the way that they were supposed to. So shout out Jason Light for that. But my matchup that matters is that rushing attack fueled by that offensive line playing so well and some good backs to hand the ball off to, and how the Cowboys defense is going to counter that.
Yeah. My plus factor, I just tried to pick out something for the Cowboys here, and it has to be Rico Dowdle, who has been, doing well for them over the last, I would say, month at least of the season, month and a half. And his rushing grade versus something that Tampa Bay does quite a bit versus loaded boxes, 75.6 rushing grade versus loaded boxes. And the Bucs have loaded the box on 58.2% of plays this season, which is the highest rate in the NFL. So that's something that Rico Dowdle is going to be facing. It's something that he's pretty good at, though, especially when you consider the obvious that he's the lead back and everything like that. I think McCarthy finally came out and said that about a month ago, where you're just like, duh.
It wasn't a month ago. It was like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, all right. So it's 2 weeks ago. Like, okay.
We knew that.
That's, I think, the best kind of chance for, again, you have Cooper Rush at quarterback, you need to let him be able to lean kind of on this run game, and that's what the Cowboys have been doing, and getting Rico Dowdle quite a few touches and stuff like that. So this is something that he's going to be going into, but he does well against the way that the Bucs are trying to defend that. So it's going to be really interesting. The Bucs defense has not been as stout at all as you would have liked this year, and they had a good performance against Justin Herbert and the Chargers this last game. You got that turnover. Jamel Dean having that interception was huge, but you want to see if they can keep that up and kind of use these last few games as a runway to build up what they've not been able to do defensively this year, which is, stop the run first and foremost, get pressure, do all that kind of stuff. That's not something that we've seen out of them on a consistent basis this year. So I would like to see that, and I think that they can do that. And Levante David playing like vintage Levante David against the Chargers is going to be a huge part of that. I think I kind of tackled him when I saw him. I hadn't seen him in a long time, and I was like, "My dude, like
what a good game." Future Hall of Famer Levante David.
Future Hall of Famer Levante David. You and I leading the charge.
Well, Levante's leading the charge. We're behind.
Leading,
we're right behind him.
The support for yeah.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure you like and subscribe the video. And if you don't have a PFF Plus subscription, you can get one to see all the premium stats that we talked about here on the show, plus the expert betting and fantasy advice over at subscribe.pff.com. The description is also right below. So if you are not a PFF Plus subscriber, you become one today.